it's LaQueen. I'm here at home and I'm just thinking now about the passing of Nashville star um, Hayden Panettiere, who was found unresponsive today in her home in North Carolina. And even, you know, with somebody who's in the prime of their life, even Disney stars, you know, multi-million dollar, you know, they're set for the rest of their lives. They don't have to worry about money. Um, you know, um, they're financially secure. And, I'm thinking about, you know, um, somebody that is financially secure and that does not have to worry about money, and that that can pretty much do as they please, and they still face mental health struggles. And it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what religion you are, if you are Christian or Muslim, or Buddhist, Jewish, or wherever you are in the world, if you're in the Middle East, or if you're in America, or if you're in Europe, or if you're in Asia, doesn't matter, Australia, Africa, doesn't matter where you are in the world, everybody goes through mental health struggles, depression, PTSD, um, anxiety, um, and now that the rates of autism have risen higher than ever before, um, is something that is a struggle for a lot of people and a lot of individuals. And I know nobody can probably hear me right now, but I'm probably being screened on YouTube. But um, you know, um, but yeah. So the rates of autism is going higher and higher and higher, and you know, it even in adulthood, even in adults, the rates of autism are going higher and higher and higher, and so people are not able to communicate, you know, their struggles and their issues and how their feelings and their emotions. And so people are, they're not able to fully understand or communicate what they're going through. And so they either self-medicate, or they try to deal with that emotionally. For me, I usually I like to be clean. I love the smell of books. Or I like to go out. I like to listen to music. I like to do things on social media. I like to get involved. I'm a very creative person. And so lately I've been feeling like kind of constrained and dealing with now, in the prime of my life, going into my 40s, I'm being told now, as a child, I had to deal with, oh, I'm depressed and I'm living with a single mother, living with a single dad, and growing up, you know, in a single parent household, and in college, my college years, saying that I had bipolar disorder. And then now in my 40s, people are telling me, I'm schizoaffective in my 40s, which is crazy. So you kind of like you're growing in this sort of kind of mental health diagnosis world, and you're not able um, to um, get out of that that diagnosis for the rest. It follows you. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Once um, you have that diagnosis in your medical record, it's there for you for the rest of your life. And I hated that the press, you know, the press and the system. There have been so many data breaches on people's mental health diagnosis and it being spread, throughout the world. And it will not only affect you, your family, but it can affect you emotionally, financially, and legally, where you can be sued and you can lose custody of your children, you can lose your work, you can lose your job, you can lose job opportunities, because of a mental health diagnosis or because a doctor misdiagnosed you, and it could follow you throughout the rest of your life. And so you're dealing with that, and you're dealing with all these programs, and you can't escape, you know, the drug addiction. You can't escape that lifestyle that you've been with it all your life. And for me, I've been in so many treatment programs, and I'm like, why am I in all these treatment programs? Well, I've dealt with it a lot where people think like I have a eating disorder, and I don't have an eating disorder, even though a couple of my people in my family are obese. But just because there are people in my family that are obese doesn't mean that I have an eating disorder. And so I dealt with that when I was a student at Howard University, where the doctor at Howard University thought I had an eating disorder. And so pretty much I got expelled from Howard University because my grades were poor, and the doctor misdiagnosed me with an eating disorder in the hospital, and he told me to get on a diet and that I could either, find some other form of housing because the school was not going to support me anymore, or that, I had to go back home to Texas from Washington, D.C. And so, um, that hurt me for the rest of my life, for the rest of my career, for the rest of my school education. Howard University, I was involved in everything on campus. I was involved in, I was about to join the college tennis team. I was about to, I was involved in the student council, student government. I was involved in the gospel choir and the community gospel choir. I was a sports medicine pre-med major, and I'm still involved in sports medicine right now. And I still was not able to get away from the fact that people thought I had an eating disorder on campus, you know, and so that I was being sexually promiscuous and that I had an eating disorder. And so, you know, um, dealing with that and dealing with family in my life in California that were on the streets having drug addiction. And, now in this year with the Trump administration and COVID is still not over, drug addiction has still not gone away. You know, um, crack cocaine is still at its highest on the streets. Fentanyl is still at its highest on the streets. Even here in the Boston Quincy area, fentanyl is a very, very high street drug on the streets. It's very, very high. And so, you know, um, off of Mass Ave, they're giving away, they're letting people shoot up for free off of Mass Ave in Boston, as long as it's a quote unquote safe site, for you to use drugs freely, in the Boston area, which I don't agree with. I don't think that is, in the best interest of the community, for letting people say, okay, well, you can use here as long as it's a safe site. I think that you should have drug programs in place to allow people to say there are other alternatives rather than doing drugs. We can get you involved in job readiness programs. We can get you involved in creative programs, work, school education, you know, rather than just allowing drugs as an alternative method for people on the streets, you know. And when you go to a lot of those programs, like Pine Street, or those programs, they have job readiness programs out there to help people, but after that, you're kind of on your own. And some people, they do the job readiness programs, and then some of them are, you know, put back on Mass Ave. Do you know what I'm saying? They are put back on Mass Ave. And so it hurts. Hi, Xylon Whitley. How you doing? Hi, Duggar Chambu. Hi, Mark. So it hurts. It really does hurt. And, you know, even the famous actress Hayden Panettiere, you know, she still was not able to deal with that, you know, emotionally, deal with losing custody of her daughter. You know, even with all that money, like what happened to Britney Spears, and Britney Spears finally had to retire from the music industry just over a couple weeks ago. You know, she was actually able to pay off her debtors and finally retire from the music industry after all these years that Britney Spears has been in music. Okay, Britney Spears has been in music for almost since the 90s. Okay, and after 20, 25, 30 years, Britney Spears has finally retired from the music industry. And you see what she went through. She shaved her head. She went through addiction problems. You know, she went back and forth between mental health facilities. She's dancing all over social media. And, you know, what happened to Britney Spears, what happened to Hayden Panettiere could easily happen to Britney Spears. And, you know, both of them had you know, a very strong supportive network system. It could have been better. But again, you know, it's all really about your support system and your support network. For me, you know, I'm a very independent person, but I'm stupid. And so, um, I'm I'm right now, I'm getting tired of being stupid. I'm getting tired of being stupid, and I'm getting tired of being stupid. And I not a lot of people in my situation think, oh, I can do it, I can do it, I can make it, I can make it, I can do it. But oh, I can live in a car, oh, I can live in a car, or I can live, you know, I can live, you know, I can make it, I can make it, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, that's not gonna work, you know. And doing Uber, you know, as a means to survive, you know, and thrifting, you know, for your only means to survive is not gonna work. You need a backup plan. You need a way to survive. You need to get down to the basics. And winter is going to be soon approaching, really, really soon. Winter, the snow is going to come here really soon, really soon. And families are going to have to come together and, you know, come together, come with their resources together, you know, and save money and save up for the winter. Because as soon as the snow approaches, you know, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what language you speak, you're going to be stuck in a house and you're going to figure out how I'm going to get to work, how I'm going to make money, where's the food going to come from, how are we going to get water, what about electricity, how are we going to be able to survive this winter storms. And I know just last year, Europe went through a really bad power outage in Europe for the winter. They had a bad heat wave this year, and it had a bad winter problem last year. So, you know, it's good to have people in your life that will support you. You know, it's good to have that system in your life, a good strong system in your life. You know, I don't think I've met Hayden Panettiere, But I do understand and I do acknowledge that times are hard for a lot of people. And it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how much money you have or where you come from, or even if you're a movie star or you have a brand new movie coming up, you know, relationships are real. You have to have a strong support network in your life. You know, addiction is real, domestic violence is real, crime is real. It has not changed. And so you can't do things by yourself. And I have to realize that I can't anymore, and neither can I or a lot of other people as well. I just wish, that she was only 38 years old, and to know that, just to give life another chance. There's so many programs out there to help people, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a strong support network in your life, do you know what I mean? None of those programs are going to work. They'll just put you right back on the streets. Those programs will put you right back on the streets. You go back right to the same addiction that you left from. And that's what happened to me at Howard University. I was put right back on the streets, and it was hard. And money is real. Money is real. It's no joke. And people's like, well, oh, all you can do is just, all you need is just a trust fund and you'll be okay. Well, yeah, all you need is a trust fund and that's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A trust fund is good, but at the end of the day, you have to get back to basics. You have to get back to the basics, the basics. Job, food, water, and housing, the basics. You cannot do anything in your life without doing the basics. The basics. Job, housing, food, and water. The basics. It doesn't matter if you have a trust fund. It doesn't matter if you're a trust fund baby. It doesn't matter if you're at, Princeton University or if you're at NYU or if you're at Columbia. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you're at freaking Cambridge University or in Paris or in Germany or in Africa, Nigeria, the very, very basics you need to survive. It doesn't even matter if you're a trust fund baby or not. Job, food, housing, and water. The very basics of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Job, food, housing, and water. The basics. Without that, it doesn't matter. And then after that, you can start building on the trust funds and all that stuff. But all this stuff we're talking about, oh, well, these get quick rich fund schemes about, saying, oh, we'll build a trust fund. And that's how the rich people make their money. They build a trust fund. But yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's great. But how do they build their trust funds? By getting a job to put money into the trust fund. So I think that's kind of what Hayden Panettiere wanted. She wanted to build a financial future for her daughter, security for her daughter. But again, it came out too late, too late, too late. So, um, again, the very basics you need, even right now with the winter soon approaching us, the very basics to survive: food, housing, shelter, food, housing, employment, job, and water. Employment, housing, food, and water. The very basics, you know. So, but all right. So this is LaQueen. Um, I'm praying for Panettiere family and her daughter, who will grow up and to know that her mother lived a good life, but it could have been better. And she was in a prime of her life, and unfortunately, um, you know, um, she passed away too soon. So I don't talk a lot, but thank you guys on YouTube for letting me talk tonight. I really do appreciate you guys. Um, it just hurts that I'm in my 40s now, and people on the streets are saying that I have schizoaffective disorder. It hurts. It hurts. But taking pictures of my hair, and I'm happy. I do my own hair. Um, I try to do very best I can, but it hurts, and I really don't know a lot. There is the DSMV manual, the Diagnosis Statistics for Mental Disorders manual, changes every single year, from bipolar disorder to autism, and the rates of autism have skyrocketed over the past year. And with autism, people are not able to communicate how they feel. They're not able to communicate their emotions, you know. Um, and so, even from child to teenage to adult. And so, dealing with autism, and now in my 40s, in the prime of my life, being told, that I have schizoaffective disorder, you know, like I want a family, I want a child, I want kids, and I want to be married one day, and dealing with a really bad relationship 2, 3 years ago. And the man's married now, but um, you know, I still can't deal with, you know, um, being told that I have schizoaffective disorder, you know, in my life, in my 40s, in my life, in the prime of my life, in my 40s, am I going into middle age adulthood? I can't get a job, I can't get employment, full-time employment. I can't even get Social Security. It's just crazy what I'm going through right now. It's crazy. And I barely have a social network in my life. I'm trying, and I know I'm not the only one that is going through this right now. I know that I'm not the only one that is going through this financially, socially, and emotionally. So, um, is people are struggling right now, and you know, I, I'm everything that I did over COVID was self-published. The money, all the traveling, all that I did, I did it out of, my own money, my own means, and I did it by myself. Self-published. I tried to reach out to a couple publishers, But they said what I did wasn't enough. I had to do more. I had to do like 200-300 pages, you know, and I did it. So I put everything on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. You know, all my reports are on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. And now with the Trump administration, and now with this new year, the year's almost over in August, I have not accomplished anything this year. I just went through a major election last year in Cambridge. None of that mattered. I'm still back at the same place that I started from when I came here to Boston. And it hurts. It hurts. My reputation is bad. My finances are bad. It hurts. And I've lost a lot of hair on top of that. I lost all my hair, and I was bald last year, and I'm finally getting my hair back. So, you know, I pray if anybody's going through what I'm going through, to know that you are not alone. That you are not alone. You are not alone. I've been told that I'm a kid, I'm a little kid, you know. I've been told that, you know, I'm not 40 years old, I'm 16 years old, and, you know, I've been told I'm a different religion, all these things. But whatever it is, just know that you are not alone. Okay? All right. Okay, so this is LaQueen. Um, please keep me in your thoughts and prayers. I really would appreciate it. Um, and yeah. So God bless you guys. And praying for Hayden Panettiere's daughter, who I think she's 6 or 7 years old right now, who unfortunately lost her mother today. And, you know, like I said before, depression has no financial means, you know. It's real. You got to check in on your people. You got to check in on your loved ones, your friends, your family members. You know, do a social welfare check. You know, it's real. And if you're alone, you don't have to be alone. And it's okay to not feel okay. I have to learn it the hard way. It's okay to not feel okay. All right. God bless you guys. This is LaQueen. Take care. And like I said before, it's okay to not feel okay. All right. I love you guys. God bless you. Take